Hello and welcome to In Focus. My name is Phil D'Amico. I'm the President and CEO of the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce, filling in for Eric Marsh tonight, who has a well-deserved, well-earned night off. So many thanks to Eric for this opportunity. And it's great to have all of you in the audience with us tonight. A little later on in the program, we're going to look at the Innovation Center. We're going to get an update from Scott Zimmerman, their executive director, on just what's going on there. We'll also have some former students of IUE, some graduates. We're going to talk to them about their college experience. Did it prepare them for the real world? And is college worth it? So we'll have that discussion. But up now, we are really pleased to have the president of Bethany Seminary, Dr. Jeff Carter. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Phil.
You know, you and I have had a chance to connect in other community elements since I've been here and since you've been here. So it's great to catch up on this program. You know, I hate to say that Bethany is like the best kept secret in our community, but it kind of is. So maybe give us an overview of where Bethany's at, maybe how it, started here and what you're looking at doing.
Sure. Yeah, well, I think it is kind of a best kept secret.
Yeah.
We've been around for a while, founded in 1905 in Chicago, had a number of different campus locations, moved here to the Richmond community in 1994. So for over 20 years, we've been a member of the Richmond community. We're located on the campus of Earlham College, right next to the Earlham School of Religion, and we're kind of a brick building among other brick buildings. And so I think it's easy for folks to drive by quickly on Route 40 and pass right by us without knowing that we're here in the community. But Bethany itself is a seminary of the Church of the Brethren, a small Protestant denomination, but the seminary itself is open to all people, and not just for pastors, but those who are interested, investigating, curious, thoughtful about how religion and life intersect and how it might lead them in a calling.
Yeah, and I spent some time touring there, and it was a great tour. The mission vision that you guys have is phenomenal. Maybe talk a little bit about that. How do you share that mission and vision? Because you are outside the walls of Wayne County, clearly, right? So it's an international focus. It's a national focus. Maybe talk a little bit about the mission vision of Bethany.
Yeah, so the seminary itself comes from a long tradition within the Church of the Brethren that partners what I like to say is a ministry of the heart, right, that we're all called and led to a higher purpose, and a ministry of the hand, which we often see that call found in service. And so our denomination is found throughout the world, and particularly in the U.S. along the West Coast and the East Coast, and then Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. But it's this blend of thought and service, faith and service that leads us in our mission. And so for the seminary, our mission is to support others in an incarnational ministry. That's a big word. What does incarnational mean?
SAT word.
Incarnational is this ministry of the heart and ministry of the hand, that what we believe and understand, our faith, is seen in the way we live our life. And so this type of faith and calling can support any type of vocational call. It's not just for pastors, although we have a lot of pastors that come to study, but it can be school teachers or Sunday school teachers, firefighters, police officers, doctors, lawyers, you name the profession. We all have a faith focus that then we can share through that profession. So our mission is much broader than just the Church of the Brethren and broader than just supporting pastors, but it includes both.
Yeah, servant leadership, as they talk about, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a big issue.
So you've been there 5 years. I'm sure time flies, right? I'm sure it seems like just yesterday, but how has it changed in your 5 years? 5 years today is I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen in 5 years. So maybe give us an overview, when you started, where Bethany was, and where did you see things going, and maybe where it's at today.
Right, so I moved from the suburbs of Washington, D.C. I was called to the school to be the 10th president, and with a call from the trustees to raise our profile. So you began the show by saying maybe the best kept secret. Clearly not everyone in Wayne County knows about Bethany Seminary, and so a piece of it is to be known. So I often refer to us being in the midst of a donut hole, that we're known in the East Coast, we're known on the West Coast where we have churches, known internationally, but in the Wayne County area, we're not well known. And so the first goal was to raise our profile, engage the community, to be known as a servant of the city, to work on some projects right around the seminary to enhance the quality of life, and to be a partner. So we've been working there. The second piece is to work on our curriculum, to be nimble and to adapt to the changing church. And we all know that that religion in America, and particularly the church, is changing rapidly. And so that's another piece. The third piece is to extend our reach beyond Richmond, but also bring that experience back to Richmond. And so we're working now in Africa. We just broke ground on a technology center yesterday.
That's incredible.
And looking, though, not just to support the church overseas, but how can residents of Wayne County, how can our students in Richmond, Indiana, be in active conversation with those throughout the world as they're continuing in their ministry, and then learn together. And it's all about conversation. You know how polarized
Oh, absolutely.
our society is right now, and one of the pieces that we're lacking is how to be in conversation with those that are different. Different attitudes, different backgrounds, different stories. And so part of our mission and our focus is to bring those of different experiences together to be in conversation around a common purpose, locally, Wayne County, throughout this nation, but then also in the world.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. By the way, we encourage our viewers, you can look at the bottom of our screen, and there's several ways that you can reach out and touch us tonight and talk to President Carter. If you have any questions or anything that you'd like to address or have the President address, we certainly would welcome that and would love to hear your thoughts. But you gave something in that answer there. Religion has changed a lot. I thought it was interesting. You and I have talked off the air. There's a lot of individuals, faith is at one of the highest levels we've ever seen, but yet attendance at church and churches are down. So how has that changed how you guys teach, how you reach out, how the faith element has, how do you address that?
Yeah, so anyone who's been active in mainline Protestant church, Presbyterians, Methodists, Episcopalians, know that they have fewer folks in the pews with them today than they had even 10 years ago, that the place of religion is changing in America. And yet Pew Research will tell us that we are as spiritual as we've ever been. I mean, we're a spiritual people. So then as we train folks to go out and to be servant leaders, well, how do you serve a church that is no longer coming to you?
Right.
It used to be the steeple was the center of our community. Everyone would come to the steeple on a Sunday morning, and then they'd go off into their vocation and life throughout the week, and our stores would be closed, and there'd be no soccer practice. So those days are gone.
Right.
So now training our servant leaders, some are pastors and others who are working out, helping others, to be missional, meaning to be at church and to be a part of their community, to be a part of the workplace, and to see places where they might act for the good of others in the name of Christ for us. And it's this missional component, always seeing the mission of the church not only within the walls, but beyond the walls.
Yeah, and I'm really interested with that. So that really tends and leads into the mission and the missionary process, which does have an international, certainly an international focus. Is that where you guys see things going maybe in the future, more of an international-based focus?
Well, the church is clearly growing outside of the U.S., in Africa, South America, but there's also pockets growing up in Europe. We had a student who graduated who's now a missionary in France, and you would think, you have these large cathedrals that basically are tourist attractions with very small worshiping bodies, and yet here we have the student going to be a missionary in France, because in France there are folks who have not read Scripture. They don't know about the gospel, and they're curious, and so here the student is headed right back to where the big cathedrals are built to share in a relational type of ministry, meaning missional, where folks want relationship, where they want to hear the good news, where they want to be about a higher purpose, and that's where this student is engaging, and that's in France. Now, in other places where the church is really growing and alive, like in Africa and Nigeria, where we have members of the Church of the Brethren, our focus there is to more support the mission that's already happening there.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I've taken 3 mission trips, 2 to Nicaragua, 1 to Romania, and what you're talking about was exactly what we saw in Romania. A lot of Catholic churches at one time, and then through war and attrition and those kind of things, they're down. So it's kind of a reaffirmation of faith, but in a different way, no longer Catholicism. So they look at other things. And I remember getting a question from a couple people saying, you mean it's okay to open a Bible and read? And we're like, yeah, it's okay to do that. So I think you're right. So the world is changing how it does religion as well. How has that affected maybe your focus on curriculum and how you teach and how you prepare your ministers maybe in the future?
So the old way of teaching is you teach folks, basically pastors,
Right.
to do administration, preaching, and pastoral care.
Exactly,
Those are the
yeah.
three big things, because folks on a Sunday morning are going to come to the church, and that's where you preach, and then
Right.
you go out and you spend time visiting. But that's not it. In fact, when I was a pastor for 20 years, my grandparents would consider 50 out of 52 Sundays regular attendance. But if you attended 48 Sundays out of 52, well, that's questionable. Today, folks will say, I'm an every Sunday attender if I'm there 1 or 2 Sundays a month.
Right.
Dramatically different. And so to encourage and instill within those who are going out to serve to think beyond the walls of the
Sure.
church, to get involved in the community, to hear what the needs are of the community, and then to work in many ways as a nonprofit in supporting those communities and meeting those needs. So it's a much more outward focus, and evangelism then takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah, and what's
it's
interesting,
relational.
yeah, and what's interesting here, how has technology then affected how you either teach or preach or get out into the community? So everything is technologically driven now. So how has that affected religion and specifically how you guys teach out in the community?
So technology is changing everything.
Sure.
But at the root of technology is communicating, and we still are a highly relational people. We want to be in relationship. You know, no man is an island.
Right.
And so for us, we know that we have students who cannot live here in Wayne County, cannot travel to Richmond to be here full time. And so we've built a technology room. And in the seminary, there's this 90-inch flat panel TV, and we call it the portal to the world. And so within the room, there are cameras, and for those who are at a distance and those that are in the room, it's face-to-face recognition. You can hear a whisper in the room so that there can be live conversation. And the platform we use, you can actually interrupt someone, which means if you're in a conversation, you're actually in a conversation,
Right.
give and take. We've had as many as 4 different time zones
Wow, that's
in this room, and with us building this technology room in Africa, in January we will have Nigerians in the technology room in Africa connecting in to the room in Richmond
Wow.
in live conversation. The important piece in all of this is that technology enhances the ability to be in a relationship. We are a relational people. And so for us, we're trying to model, not only teach, but model how to use technology in a way that enhances relationship and doesn't substitute.
Yeah.
And how can we work through the differences, different perspective, backgrounds, ideas, using technology as a way of arbitrating and then instilling the value of community.
Well, what's interesting is, so the cost of education for traditional, whether it's a state school, and trust me, I just put 2 kids through college, so I get this fact, or whether it's a private school, how have you been able to either control cost, or what are some of the determinants in how you guys go about, you know, pricing education, and specifically seminary education?
Sure. Well, this is a huge issue. You may know that the average college student, you know this well, the average college student will graduate with around $30,000 to $35,000 of debt. Now, for many students who are seeking a service profession, to be a social worker, a teacher, to be in a first responder,
Sure.
if they want to go on for a master's degree after college, the debt load prohibits them for continuing in their education. So this national crisis on educational debt really impacts seminaries and other graduate schools for those who are in servant leadership. So for us, it's kind of 2 pieces. We have this robust distance ed program, and so folks can come through the technology room or do traditional online education. And for us, it's only $1,100 a semester. You can take as many classes as you want. strong donor base,
That's incredible.
a strong endowment. We're passing all of that on to our students. Now, if you're a residential student and you want to live in our neighborhood, these collection of homes, you saw them, collection of homes that we have renovated, and we control these homes. We're passing all the savings on to students. We are now offering a scholarship for residential students who want to live in our neighborhood, that they can get a master's degree without any additional educational or consumer debt. Now, you've heard of schools say, we'll scholarship the educational debt. We're now saying we will find a pathway for no additional educational or consumer debt. And the reason is, folks who want to be in a service profession, we want to free them of the debt so that they can follow their call and serve. And so it's a way of addressing this little seminary in Richmond is addressing one of the largest challenges to higher ed, and that's debt. And we found this pathway for our local students, and we've reduced the cost down to $1,100 a semester for our distance students.
Yeah. And by the way, I told my students I took a vow of poverty. They have no college debt, it's on me.
Right.
So maybe talk a little bit about, you talked a little bit about the homes across the street. So maybe some future building projects that you have going, that some of the things that you're talking about that's going to help set you up for the future.
Well, the houses, if I'll just take a moment to talk about
absolutely.
that neighborhood, because when we moved here in 1994, we built one building on the campus of Earlham, and our students then rented in the community. But unfortunately, when a student moves into this community, they may not have the perfect location, and then they move again, and that instability then becomes a retention issue for our students. So we took a number of homes, renovated them with volunteer labor, did it at a low cost, and now we have this neighborhood, Bethany neighborhood, with new green space. And we went to a partner, Marsh grocery store was right there, and they had graffiti on the back of their building. And one of our students went and said, "Have you seen the graffiti on the back of your building?" And Marsh, being a wonderful partner, the manager came out and saw the graffiti, and immediately within a week it was all painted over. And so as a benefit to the Richmond community, these houses were renovated, but in addition, we increased green space, we eliminated all the trash that was surrounding these houses, and dealt with the graffiti. So we dealt with an issue of blight. So our students now are living there, they're shopping at the Marsh, and they're able to attend classes. And this year, it will be an international community because the houses will be full, and we'll have students from Africa, from Europe, and from the U.S. So the hope then is now we're going to renovate our building.
So about 2 minutes left. Where do you see things going? What's on your agenda? What's the next step?
Well, we're gonna renovate our building to make it more inclusive for our students and easier to be used by the community. We're increasing our presence in Africa. We are continuing with our commitment on no debt, and we are reaching out to the community more and more. Be part of the chamber, and hopefully to be a leader among the business community. To work with our educational partners. We're a strong knowledge town here in Richmond, and to be known not just by name, but to be known by our presence, what we add to the city.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for all the work you're doing too. And you and I haven't met a couple times. I can tell you they got the right guy to lead Bethany, and it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for sharing what's going on. It's some great, exciting things. By the way, you didn't notice I had the bow tie on.
I saw
There's no way I was going to let you be the best dressed guy here.
You look good.
But it's great to have you. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Phil.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have some Indiana University East students that recently graduated. We're going to talk to them about their college experience. Stay with us on In Focus.
Hi, Phil Quinn. I'm your host for Access to the Arts, a new program here on WCTV. We're going to learn about the history of the Murray Theater. We'll also talk to some cast members about the upcoming show and the season as a whole.
And that's the exciting thing for us. Sometimes you go from the big, exciting, fun musical or family-oriented musical to a drama that's going to take you to a whole different place.
Catch Access to the Arts on Channel 20 WETV.
Because there are dreams of what the future should look like. Because there are questions, but uncertain answers. Because there are basic needs not being met. Because physical activity should be a priority. Because every child deserves to read at or above grade level. Because you live united. A love of learning is developed. Youth value exercise. Needs are being met. Questions are being answered. Futures are no longer just dreams. Reaching out a hand to one and influencing the condition of all. Together, we can make a difference. Live united.
Hi, I'm Melissa Vance with the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to invite you to join me for Chamber Chat this month. We'll start off talking about Community Improvement Awards with Kim Poinsett from First Bank Richmond, and then we'll be talking with Scott Zimmerman and Denise Rex about the Richmond Gateway Project, and wrapping it up with Ed De La Paz and Julia Black from our office talking all about Wayne County weekends. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.
And welcome back to In Focus. This is going to be one of my favorite segments. We've got some recent graduates from IU East. I say recent, within a couple years, but you can see we're now going to be joined by the millennial generation. We're going to talk a little bit about their college experience and did college prepare them for the real world, and what would they have changed if they could. So it's great to have all of you here. Thank you for doing this. I feel, obviously, I took the tie off, and then I got two people dressed up in ties. So, but it's great to have all. Maybe a quick start with you. When you talk about your college experience, do you think it prepared you for what you were going to find out in the real working world?
At the time, certainly, yeah. It was full confidence. And then it's kind of like when you get out into the working world, you learn that there's a whole bunch of things you didn't learn about, but you learn some of the skills inside and outside of the classroom that helps you prepare and learn how to handle those situations. So it's something to fall back on.
Yeah, how about you, Andrea?
Sure, yeah, I absolutely think it helped me with problem solving and also with communication, how to work with other folks. So I definitely think it helped, but there's a lot of things that you really have to learn when you're on the job.
Absolutely. So you've been out how long now?
I've been out of undergrad for 2 years and am currently in a master's program.
That's fantastic. And Andrea, how long?
I've been out for 14 years.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And George, you're recent grad. So you got the two grizzled veterans over here. Right. So maybe talk a little bit. You're right out of school. So what were your thoughts coming out? Did you think that the college experience prepared you for what you're about to walk into, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to learn as you go.
Sure.
As soon as you come out, you think you have this whole plan figured out, and then sometimes things changes. And school teaches you that all the time. Like a couple of times, you think, oh, I have my schedule; it's already made up. I'm caught up on everything. The following week, you have quizzes and tests that are due. So it definitely teaches you how to go with the flow. Sometimes you got to learn as you go.
So Andrea, one of the hot topics today is project-based learning, so real-world stuff as we teach. It wasn't as prominent maybe 10 years ago as it is now. So would that have been more of a benefit when you were going through some of the things that they're involved in today, or were you doing some of that stuff?
We were actually doing some of that stuff. We worked on some actual projects. It was in Tim Scales' class.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We did a marketing plan for the Roseview Transit system at the time.
Wow, okay.
He had brought in other local businesses. Warm Glow was just starting off at the time. So it was a good experience, but they're probably doing more of that now than what we were doing at the time, but I did get a taste of that while I was here.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, and you talked about the kind of the project base. So that's so valuable, I think, when you go out. I think probably more classrooms probably need to incorporate some form of a project-based learning. And Andrea mentioned Tim Scales. I'm a huge fan of Tim Scales, although he thinks Venus Williams has all of her success because of him. But no, that's a whole other story. But it's interesting, the project base is where we're heading, I think.
Yeah. I mean, in the day-to-day activities of where I work, and I'm sure it's consistent across a lot of places, there are multiple irons in the fire, and you've got to be able to balance all of those across multiple projects with different people. And I know that the experiences that I had in college, and I don't have the decade ago experience, but the more recent experience prepared me for that, inside and outside of the classroom, whether that was doing group projects in class or with on-campus groups that we were affiliated with. So.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the, George, I think that's one of the most important parts here. What Dan talked about was the soft skills. So the team collaboration skills, problem-solving skills, I think those are the ones that we're seeing more prominent in today's education. Did you find that to be the case?
I did. I think now that when you're looking for a job, they're asking what kind of things can you add to the job, like leadership, kind of stuff like that. And I think it's important that you learn those kind of skills, like personal skills, being able to read people, being able to adapt to different situations. So I definitely think those are important.
So you're in the job market. You got Richmond Baking here, Reed Hospital. So you're well covered. You guys can talk offline here. What do you think? Would you have changed anything with your college experience? Is there anything that you look at now and say, boy, I wish we would have done this or covered this?
Not really. There's nothing comes to mind.
And how about you?
I think that during undergrad, in the job I'm in now, during undergrad, I was working as a waiter and a cook. So you could kind of extrapolate some of the things that you learn in the classroom and apply to those. But as I'm in a master's program now, there's so many things that because I'm in the job doing that, I can apply things so much more easily and so much more necessary. So
yeah, we talked a lot about college debt with President Carter from Bethany. Staying local, you stayed local, right? So how did that help?
That definitely helped to not have as much debt then because I stayed local. I did actually go to, I had both experiences. So I did go to Purdue for half of my undergrad and then finished here at IU East because I went to high school in this area.
Oh, sure. Debt load help immensely, and then you're now getting your master's, so that, it's reasonably priced, I'm sure.
The staying close was nice for the price, also because I could live with my parents still, and there's that whole sense of community.
Sure.
It's not like I had moved to Purdue. I don't know where you're from, but it's not like I had moved from my home to Purdue and had all the trials and tribulations that go with trying to get settled in. So I had that comfort zone as well.
Big issue today. I know my daughter had just graduated from IU in Bloomington, so big issue, managing debt and debt load and those kind of things. A lot of pressure. You try to do your grades and look about what you want to do next and those kind of things, and then balance the financial piece. Was that a challenge for you?
I was a commuter, so I was up here maybe 3, maybe 4 times during the week for classes and whatnot. You had a really, time management was really a key thing for me. You have to work as you go also, paying for books and whatnot. So it was less stressful, you would say. Also, you have, when you're at home, you're able to talk to somebody, if you feel overwhelmed with certain things, you can talk to them. Also, just being able to handle different situations with your parents that have advice for you and stuff like that. So that's probably one of the key things about that.
Yeah, so you did both. So staying close to home was better than what you? Or?
Yeah, it also gave me the opportunity. I started working for an employer that I stayed with for 5 years, and they actually paid for my master's degree. It gave me that opportunity to kind of start building that relationship with them. So I think I enjoyed really both experiences.
That's fantastic. And I know all of you think highly, at least you told me you think highly of Tim Scales. I know he's watching on the other side of the wall. We can talk off camera. You can give me the real scoop. But I know, so, the closeness of having that, relationship with your professors, it's a really big thing. My son went to a smaller school, Bethel College in northern Indiana, got to know every professor when you're out in the community and so forth. That's got to be a big thing.
Yeah, I honestly can't say enough good things about Tim. I mean, for my experience here, he was a professor who really went above and beyond and made my undergrad experience 100% more than a lot of other students at other colleges have, I would imagine, just because we did so much, not only in his classes, but outside of the classroom, getting involved in projects within the community and giving us a chance to get that experience. I mean, it was amazing.
And I think that's the community piece is the
Yeah.
interesting part here. You get a chance, and you and I met.
Definitely.
You came in just off the street.
Right.
And I said, "Who's this guy?" And I thought, and just selling me something. But no, it was great. But I thought that was interesting. You reached out and really got active in the community, and I think that's part of the benefit of being at a school like IU East.
Definitely. During one of the last classes before I got my bachelor's degree, we went around interviewing different type of businesses, and you got to know the town and how close people are because they knew everybody across the street and whatnot. So they knew what was going on. But yeah, definitely during the conversation I had with them, they had a connection to the town. They knew what it meant. It's something they feel it. So I like the Richmond feel. I guess you could say it's close knit.
You know, it's really great to have all of you in our community, and I think that is one of the benefits that you went here. Now you're staying here. Now you have a master's degree here, well entrenched in great organizations. It's huge. This area needs this, right? We need young professionals like yourself and individuals, millennials. So that's got to be a huge key to staying local.
Sure, yeah, and I know that the community offers a lot. I used to work for the Wayne County Foundation before going to the baking company, so I realized all the different nonprofits and museums and arts and culture that the community offers that a lot of people don't really realize that we have. So I still try to share that with folks when they're looking for certain things to do, or just letting them know what all the Richmond community and Wayne County actually has to offer.
That's fantastic. By the way, we're in the same building as you got out before I got in, so you timed it perfect. I'm not there. You're not there now. So, but what prompted you to stay here? I'm sure you had options, and you probably will continue to have options. But it's great. We need individuals like you here.
Well, I mean, my story is kind of unique in that I kind of graduated here and walked across the street and had an internship. So it doesn't necessarily happen all the time, and I understand that. But it's really the opportunities within Reed for me, and the fact that I really enjoy what I'm doing. I got a really good taste of it when I was an intern and was lucky enough to be able to step on within a role that was created for me. And it was just great. I mean,
did you miss out on any of the experience? So the basketball games, the football games, those kind of things. Was that a part? And Andrea, you can touch a little bit on this from the Purdue perspective, but did you feel like you missed any of that?
As far as the big college sort of things, that I think that as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old or whatever, as an incoming freshman, what you look forward to in your college experience is not the same things that you're going to look forward to as a 22 or 23-year-old graduate. And it's probably those people who end up kicking themselves a little bit. But I think the only thing I missed out on was a lot of environments and experiences that probably would have just got me in trouble.
Yeah, so. You're absolutely right. I know for a fact that I was not mentally mature enough as an 18-year-old to go away to college. I survived. We made it through. But that first year is a big transition year. So you went to Purdue first and then came back. Maybe give us a thought of your experience there doing that.
I really enjoyed it. I didn't have a hard time adjusting. I went with several other friends from the area, so I was comfortable, even though it was such a large campus. I did enjoy going to the football games and that kind of thing. It was a different experience, but by the time that I came here, I think they had just basketball at the time when I was here. But I was more involved. I was working more hours than anyway, so it's not that I had a lot of free time to attend some of those things. So it didn't really affect me in a negative way by not having that.
Yeah, curious to get your thought process on that.
I don't think so. I don't think I missed on anything. I think my priorities were straight. Obviously, going through the whole school thing, obviously, it's a big thing in itself already. So if you add more distractions to it, obviously you're going to be, so I think it was good that I stayed close and the school was small, so it definitely worked out my
what
benefit.
is next for you? What are you looking at doing now?
Right now, I'm trying to get enterprise right now. There's a lot of phone interviews before you actually get the interview, so you got to be prepared for the phone interviews pretty much.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's great. And Andrea, I know you're well entrenched now. You got a master's as well. Where do you see things going for your professional career?
I just received, a year ago, my SHRM certification, so a human resource certification as well. So I'd like to stay in HR in in this area is my goal for the future, to kind of continue to learn and grow as an HR professional.
George, new college graduate, 2 letters, HR, next to you, sitting right next to you, buddy. You got a shot here. How about what's on tap for you? You're in marketing, correct?
Yep. Yeah, so I work in marketing. after finishing master's degree, my hope is that I'll either be able to invent something really cool, like the silly bands, and sell a bajillion of them and become a millionaire.
Right.
But the more realistic thought process is just keep working diligently, learn as much as I can, and work my way up through Reed.
What do you think the value, I want to get your thoughts, of the value of a college degree today? You know, thank God my daughter just got a job in marketing as well, and she stayed in Bloomington. But what do you think? I mean, it's invaluable, correct?
I think it depends on what your goal is. So for me, it was a no-brainer because what I really wanted was to get that sort of administrative, managerial, marketing experience. I really loved that, loved the projects. But if you are someone who really likes a trade, I mean, that's probably more up your route. I mean,
you're in HR, so you look at this every day. So the value of a college degree today is?
It is valuable. However, I agree that either that or some type of certification or trade school or something, just something to set you apart from others. I know that some positions in some places, you know, a college degree is required. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking to do. However, I do know that, you know, a four-year degree is not always for everyone.
Right, absolutely.
But having something to set yourself apart in order to make you you know, more of a top candidate for
That's a great point. Georgetown
business.
University recently did a study. They said 80% of the jobs by 2020 will need some form of either certification or beyond. Was there any other option for you other than college, or was that where you were heading?
No, that was definitely, I think, growing up with my parents, it made sure.
So you see the value of a
definitely.
four-year
Education
degree.
was really important.
Yeah.
They knew that that's what you need to get your foot in the door. So if you got to get associates or bachelors, depending on what kind of career you want, I think those are very important kind of things that you need to have, really.
Well, we had Dan Prince, Andrea Stuckey, and George Wilson. I'm very impressed with all of you. Thank you for staying in the community, for both of you. Thank you for your contribution so far. We'll look forward to great things down the line, but it's great to have all of you here. Great discussion, and we'll catch up with you down the line. We'll figure out what your next steps are, so it's great to have you. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with Scott Zimmerman. He's the director of the Innovation Center. We'll get caught up with Scott and the Innovation Center when we return. Thank you.
Hi, Phil Quinn. I'm your host for Access to the Arts, a new program here on WCTV. We're going to learn about the history of the Murray Theater. We'll also talk to some cast members about the upcoming show and the season as a whole.
And that's the exciting thing for us. Sometimes you go from the big, exciting, fun musical or family-oriented musical to a drama that's going to take you to a whole different place.
Catch Access to the Arts on Channel 20 WETV.
Because there are dreams of what the future should look like. Because there are questions, but uncertain answers. Because there are basic needs not being met. Because physical activity should be a priority. Because every child deserves to read at or above grade level. Because you live united. A love of learning is developed. Youth value exercise. Needs are being met. Questions are being answered. Futures are no longer just dreams. Reaching out a hand to one and influencing the condition of all. Together, we can make a difference. Live united.
Hi, I'm Melissa Vance with the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to invite you to join me for Chamber Chat this month. We'll start off talking about Community Improvement Awards with Kim Poinsett from First Bank Richmond, and then we'll be talking with Scott Zimmerman and Denise Rex about the Richmond Gateway Project, and wrapping it up with Ed De La Paz and Julia Black from our office talking all about Wayne County weekends. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.
And welcome back to In Focus. We're going to talk innovation. And what I thought we would do is get the man that those three students were talking about, Tim Scales, a professor at IU East, and also one of the innovation guys there. So you had three students there all talking about really, they liked you, number one. So again, we have to get them off the air to talk anything nasty about you. But I thought it was great. They all talked about the project-based aspect, which I know you're big on.
Sure.
Is that where we see things going from the innovation side of things?
Oh, absolutely. What happens is people learn by doing, okay? And so what we have to do is find ways to bring that into the classroom, and I do that. And one of the examples of that is cell phones. You know, a lot of people get aggravated by people using their cell phones, but we use the cell phones for so many things. And so often I'll even start with an econ class and I'll ask, how many people do we have in the United States? And people start making guesses, and it makes them learn how many people we actually have, about 320 million.
Wow.
And then my next question would be, how many cell phone connections do we have? People don't know, but we have over 400 million. Okay, so when you start doing the math, you start realizing how important the cell phone connections are to each individual. And so I don't ask them to turn them off. I ask them to turn them silent. Every time I ask a question in class, people are looking on their phones to get me the answers.
Sure.
I want them to do it. That's a form of research. I try to make learning fun, and that's exactly why it becomes effective.
Yeah, and you could tell with those three college students. By the way, we welcome Scott Zimmerman. He's the Executive Director of the Innovation Center, Center City. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
We talked to the students, also what Tim just mentioned. I know you're really working on this college collaborative to really engage our colleges and universities here to really embrace and then get involved in innovation.
Absolutely. We're trying to also bring back that spirit of entrepreneurship, the inquisitive innovation for our businesses, and it's been great to partner with all of our higher ed institutions here.
You know, one of the interesting things, and I want to get your thoughts as well.
Sure.
Risk-taking is always an issue in entrepreneurship, and they say there's a great book out that was written by a descendant of Thomas Edison, and they said people don't innovate like Edison. They forget how many patents failed from Edison versus the number that he succeeded. Where does that? How do you teach that in a classroom?
Well, basically, you almost have to even ask what risk is. You have to get them to start understanding it, because
Sure.
at a very young age, like the students you just had in here, you know, their level of risk is totally different than your risk or mine. And so we have to understand what the risk is. And yes, you're going to have to fail to learn. That's how we do it.
Right.
So it's just all a matter of what kind of risk you're willing to take for that reward.
Yeah, and what's interesting there is you have a co-working facility, right, at the Innovation Center. That co-working facility, you get a lot of dialogue between a lot of entrepreneurs that can share ideas of success and failure, correct?
Absolutely. Plus, we have the benefit of having the ISBDC, the Indiana Small Business Development Center there. For example, we had 3 Earlham students last summer start up a business. We provided office space for them, some business advising, got them in touch with other mobile app developers. Ultimately, their business plan didn't launch, but the 3 students all learned significantly from that. 2 have come back with new ideas of how they can go a different direction, take it in a new direction.
Well, I'm really impressed with a lot of what you're doing there. You're engaging both the high schools and the colleges. You know, talk a little bit about that. Is that really the key to where we see maybe the future here of our region, is engaging on the technology side, both the high school and the colleges?
Very much so, and we're excited that we are able to host the STEM Scout co-ed science, technology, engineering, and math labs for elementary students, which will expand into junior high this fall. And then that led into a Coderdojo, which is basically just a club for 7 to 17-year-olds from different school groups. Kids from Seton can interact with other community schools.
You know, what's interesting here, kids today and young adults today are not afraid of technology. It doesn't frighten them. So they don't mind trying stuff, failing and those kind of things.
Absolutely. The youngest student I've had in my program is 13. But 13, 14, 15, it doesn't matter. And they embrace it. They've grown up with it. And things that I might spend 15 minutes teaching you how to start, I just hand it to them and they've got it done. I mean, it's amazing how they just embrace it.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Scott, your connection to some of these educational institutions. For instance, a group of leaders are going to Anderson, Indiana to visit the flagship, which is tying in business, education, and new entrepreneurship. Maybe give us an overview of that.
Sure. Next week, we do have chamber members, educators, some other business leaders that are going to go to the Anderson Purdue Polytechnic facility and then come back through Muncie and see their CoLab and Mad Jack's Makerspace. The Makerspace is what I'm really excited about because it's going to be the opportunity to show how we can partner with our education and manufacturing facilities to help take on innovative new devices and help entrepreneurs learn those skills.
What's interesting there, kids today really see themselves working either for themselves or with a couple of people. The days of the large corporations, I mean, that's few and far between, correct?
Oh, sure. People have to think like contractors today.
Right.
And it may have an end, and they have to realize that so they
Exactly.
can start something new. So, yes.
And so how do we prepare them? How do we prepare them for that? I mean, the soft skills and some of those other things that we take for granted, it's still have to teach them, right?
We do, and it starts with making sure they understand that. Make sure they understand that maybe because their grandfather or their father or their mother, their grandmother worked for a company for 30 years doesn't
Right.
mean they will. It means that they have to understand how a
Great
contractor works and thinks, and they have to start thinking that way, which is very entrepreneurial. And that's why we're seeing so much success with places like the Innovation Center, with Scott's organization, because people are realizing co-working, and it's more than just two people thinking alike, but it's people who help each other.
That's a great point. We're seeing these co-working spaces, Scott. You talked about the Muncie Maker and Anderson Flagship, yours, for instance, but they're propping up all across our state, correct?
Absolutely. The Indiana Coworker Passport program allows you to make business connections through Lafayette, Fort Wayne, at similar co-working places where you run into new people with new ideas as you do your business traveling.
How do we find out about the Innovation Center, Scott? I know you're tucked in there downtown, but what would be a good way for people to engage with what you're doing and specifically get involved?
Well, visiting our website, richmondinnovates.com, our social media pages where we announce all of our various workshops ranging from Richmond social media to our Chamber Business Education lunches. We even also, because we promote downtown community development, we have a series of innovative enterprise workshops to help people that are living downtown grow in their own personal lives. Wealth management, rehabilitation of historic properties downtown, that's part of our economic development as well.
It's interesting in all of these cases, no matter where innovation centers are across the state, one factor is they're all tied into the university system in a lot of cases. How important is it to have that university presence when you're talking about innovation centers and really taking innovation to the next level?
It's actually a perfect match if you think about it.
really is.
Students have to make a transition from a home setting and a high school setting where the same teacher's with them every day and they've got that stability. They transfer into a university, they get more independent, and then they have to transition into a work environment. And this is that environment they need all the way through that transition. So it's just kind of like a second home, if you will.
Biggest challenge, I know a lot of people look and say, small community, small areas, small population, but this is why it's even probably more critical that we have something like this that can help jumpstart kind of the next wave of growth.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that areas like Cincinnati, Indianapolis are growing in their tech businesses, but not all tech workers want to live in those major metropolitan areas. There's real value in our small town community connectedness. And we're providing that sort of opportunity to live here and yet still have the connections between Cincinnati, Indianapolis. We truly are the Hoosiers Silicon Prairie, as the Indianapolis Business Journal is saying.
Yeah, and you know, that whole mindset's changed as well. I think we used to look at our competition as Muncie or Anderson or pick a... It's China, it's India, it's global, right? So our competition isn't next door. So kids today, I think, have a really good understanding that we can communicate across our circles here. I mean, it's easier to communicate now.
Sure, and what's interesting about that is you and I can talk about those things. We'll say, well, what's it like? And for them, they don't understand why we're talking about it because they just do it. And so you don't even have to learn it. It's just, it's what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Biggest areas of opportunity for you guys, Scott. Where do you think you see the Innovation Center going? Where's the future? Where are you kind of looking at the future mission vision?
The connection with the higher ed institutions and manufacturing to really start getting with youth early on, very early, before they get to the higher ed. So they've been prepped for the sort of mindset, the thinking that Tim and others can really polish up with them.
Do you see kids more prepared today to take on some of these things than maybe, because you've been at this a while.
I have.
Not to say you're an old guy, so, but what are the differences between kids maybe 10, 15 years ago and today?
It's all about how they communicate.
Sure.
And that's troubling sometimes to a population that's, say, my age or older, because they don't understand. But the youth today, maybe they communicate in a different way. Maybe they spend so much time texting and doing social media that they don't use complete sentences,
Right.
but they understand each other and they understand the world and they're getting the job done. I'm starting working with students in entrepreneurship at 3rd grade all the way through high school and the university. And it's just kind of a natural flow for them. And so we just got to make sure they have the tools.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I think we picture, especially at the Innovation Center, somebody in front of a computer not talking to anybody, just kind of clicking in their own world. But that's not the case, right? They could be communicating with someone online. They could be, so the social aspect takes on a whole nother angle.
Oh, absolutely. We have our own Slack channels, so in the building we're communicating while we're at our desk, but then there are those kitchenette conversations where the ideas and sharing, here's what I'm working on, can also happen over a cup of coffee, a cookie. So we've got both the personal workspaces and then the human interaction areas.
Got about 5 minutes left, so I really want to touch on how do we get kids engaged? How do we get them out? I know you talked about you're open for business basically, but how do we get kids out to really bring innovation in the Innovation Center and technology and those kind of things? How do we really make them aware of what's going on?
Well, we've been fortunate to have a couple of very specialized activities. Our STEM Scouts through Boy Scouts of America, the Coderdojo, very unstructured networking opportunity, but then we also offer the Greenhouse Coding Academy for 9th graders learning the computer language Scratch in a more intensive 6 weeks course. We're also putting together entrepreneur workshops, again, partnering with our higher eds here to get them in touch with some of the tech devices, the 3D printers, as early as possible, but from a business development standpoint. That's what I'm really excited about.
I know you got a new partnership with the Chamber, talking about co-working membership at your place as well as getting a Chamber membership. Maybe give us a little understanding of how that works.
Well, because a lot of our startups, our entrepreneurs, may not be in a position to take on the full Chamber membership rate, we now have our exchange where our entrepreneur members can benefit from all of the networking opportunities that the Chamber puts on, but now Chamber members can also come and take advantage of some of that creative, unique work environments, networking in the hallways. So it's an exchanging of idea space that I think will help businesses.
So being the Chamber president, I just want to know, is it going to cost me money? No, I'm just kidding. I think we're okay there.
Yes.
You know, Tim, has there been any kind of observation on our kids performing better today academically in light of some of the technological advances and some of the things that the interactive things that they're doing? Do we see any correlation there?
Well, I think they're using libraries maybe less.
Oh, yeah.
But the libraries also turned a lot of their resources into things that they're picking up, through the internet and such. So I guess in all fairness, they're still using the libraries in a different way. But what's happening is the information is there at their fingertips all the time, and I think they're grasping it pretty quick, and they're utilizing it without us even realizing it. And so I think they're doing a great job.
That would have made my term papers a whole lot easier had I had Google back then.
And you can do it all the time, 24 hours a day. So yes.
Oh, it is amazing. And really quick, how has that changed how kids do research? And there's access to more information probably than ever.
You have to know the students and you have to respect the students. You have to get to know and talk to them and interact with them and understand their world. Like for instance, most of them don't realize it, but I know they have 3 email addresses. They have one that the school gives them, they never check. Then they have one that they use that they may check once or twice a week, that it's whatever. And then they've got one they check every 5 minutes. okay? But you have to respect that, and you have to get to know them, and eventually they'll tell you this is the best way to communicate with me.
Venture capital gets talked about a lot. You know, we're talking about creative individuals now that want to start businesses. How big of a role is that venture capital? I know you and I have talked a little offline, but is that a hindrance, or is that an opportunity for our community?
It's absolutely an opportunity. We've had some meetings lately discussing how to make sure that that's a tool that Richmond and Wayne County has in our toolbox as opportunities present themselves. And the state of Indiana is making sure that it supports venture capital through some of the state legislation. So we're very fortunate to have Senator Rotz as part of our tour up to Anderson. He's very much looking out for how we can be positioned for whatever the state puts together for venture capital opportunities.
Yeah, and I know the other hat you wear is the Center City hat. You visited Hamilton, Ohio, looked at transformation of an entire community. Maybe give us an overview of how that example could fit an area like ours.
Right, and that was something that we talked about at our luncheon today, the idea that we're building communities, a tech community, an entrepreneurship community, but also the physical infrastructure, what people see about our community. And they do look to the downtown, they look to the core. So Hamilton, Ohio, which has its own problems, realized they have to unify their approach, get everybody on board, and agree on how they're going to reinvest in downtown. We have another meeting coming up this Monday with the state Chief Financial Officer for Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority to keep us putting that plan together to continue revitalizing our downtown.
Yeah, and I know about a minute and a half left.
Okay.
Technology does drive the quality of life, correct? So to attract some of the students that we had on earlier and some of the ones you got in class now, we need some of the cool stuff, but it has to be kind of an innovative area, right?
Well, I think the cool stuff is the innovative, but the reason it's innovative is it's new, it's cutting edge. And for the last 3 years, that's what I try to do in my center, is keep bringing in the cutting edge. And so I started with the 3D printer, then I brought in the VR, the virtual reality, then the augmented reality. This year I brought in even some stronger, better virtual reality, and I bring in simulations with that. And I have a makerspace in my center, and I'm going to be expanding it into Scott's Center, so we're going to have dual makerspaces and make it available for the community as well as, you know, our students. And what happens is it's a whole new way of learning. Right. But it gets you truly immersed into it, and it's so fascinating. And there's just so many things you can do with it. In a makerspace, you're supposed to find your space, okay? Not everybody's going to be into 3D printing. Not everybody's going to be into VR, the AR, and some people are going to be still just doing the simpler things without any technology, and that's okay. Even in the makerspaces and in the work areas, we have people that are working with just paper and pen.
Yeah.
They don't have to have a computer or technology. They can still be a part of these really neat spaces.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Both of you guys are doing extraordinary work for our community. Thank you so much. I started here November 1st last year. I think it was November 3rd. They said, you got to meet Tim Scales. That guy's got the coolest stuff in his office. So, but it's great to have both of you on. Thanks for all the stuff you're doing, Scott. You're doing a wonderful job in getting innovation and technology out there. So,
thank you.
Thank you for watching this evening, and I thank Eric Marsh for giving me the opportunity to host. Thanks for watching In Focus as always. We'll see you next time.
Watch Wayne County Connection on WGTV Channel 11 Tuesdays at 6. I'm your host, Michael Swigert. Join me this month as we welcome to the community John Cook, Performing Arts Manager at Civic Hall. He's new to the community and highlighting this fantastic jewel that makes Wayne County a great place to work, live, and play. Find out more on Wayne County Connections, Tuesdays at 6 on Channel 11.
You are watching Whitewater Government Television, Channel 11.